episode of Gypsy Rose Life After Lockup, Gypsy wanted Ryan Anderson to drive to the hospital after Gypsy gave birth to sign a piece of paper so that the baby's last name would not be Anderson and that it could be Blanchard. So Gypsy had tried to contact Ryan multiple times and he was not responding to her. So then Gypsy contacted Ryan's mother to see if she could talk Ryan into it. So there's a scene where Ryan drives over to his mom's house and they have a conversation about this and what's happening.
Oh babe, let me spill this tea properly because the drama between Gypsy Rose Blanchard and her ex Ryan Anderson just went from simmering to a full-on boil. Just when everyone thought their messy chapter was closed for good, the latest episode of Life After Lockup aired and baby, it flipped the whole script, again. Picture this, Gypsy had just given birth to her baby girl, Aurora. A big moment, right? You'd think she'd be soaking in the peaceful, first day of motherhood glow, bonding with her daughter and finally stepping into a fresh new era, but instead, homegirl was glued to her phone. Not taking cute newborn photos. Not texting her husband or friends. No. She was deep in desperate ex mode, frantically messaging Ryan. Yup, that Ryan. The man she publicly cheated on, humiliated, and dumped like yesterday's news. And the messages? Oh honey, they weren't casual. She was practically begging him to make a 3-hour drive just to sign a piece of paper. The document would legally state that Ryan wasn't the father of her baby, which everyone already knew, but it also meant that Aurora wouldn't automatically get his last name, Anderson. Gypsy was adamant about one thing, that baby was going to be a Blanchard, period. So she needed Ryan to physically show up and make that happen. But guess what? Ryan didn't respond. Not a single text. Not a call. Nothing. He straight up ghosted her like she never existed, and that silence? It spoke volumes. The man who used to drop everything for Gypsy was done playing her emotional security blanket. And this time, he didn't even entertain the idea. He just dipped, no explanation needed. Poof. Gone. Now here's where it gets wild. When Ryan ignored her texts, Gypsy went full throttle and messaged his mom. Yes, girl, she actually tried to go through his mother like it was some kind of emergency PTA meeting. Who does that? It was giving high school ex who can't let go energy, and even his mom was like, what is happening right now?
What did they ask her? And sign something to where the baby can no longer have my last name and
But be a Blanchard.
be a Blanchard. Why Blanchard, not you, girl? You know, just the audacity of her to think that I would drive 3.5 hours over there, knowing that she's there with her family and the baby and everything, and sign a piece of paper where, you know, she no longer is an Anderson, and, you know, and why would I do that to help her?
Then Gypsy recently posted this to her TikTok stories. Aurora's last name is no longer listed as Anderson. She is now officially an Urker. So it appears that Ryan did not drive to the hospital and sign that piece of paper, but just like, what?
Ryan, to his credit, stayed calm and classy. He sat down with his mom and explained the entire situation, from the texts to the paper signing drama. And you could tell he was over it. His tone, his body language, it screamed emotional exhaustion. Not the dramatic, loud kind, but the quiet kind that hits you after being dragged through a relationship that was all give and no get. He wasn't mad. He wasn't bitter. He was just done. And honestly, can you blame him? This is the same Gypsy who cheated on him while they were married, blasted him on the internet, and moved on like he was just a stepping stone to her next headline. And now, after all that, she wanted a favor? A 3-hour favor? Ryan saw straight through it. This wasn't about the baby. This wasn't closure. This was control, a last-ditch effort to reel him back in and remind him that she still had pull. But Ryan? He didn't budge. Not an inch. No emotional reaction, no let's talk, not even a petty comeback. And that silence? That was the real power move. Because for years, Gypsy had been the one calling the shots. She decided when things started, when they ended, and when they'd magically restart again. Ryan was always the one chasing, apologizing, fixing everything even when it wasn't his mess to fix. But this time? Not anymore. He didn't owe her his time. He didn't owe her closure. And he sure as hell didn't owe her a 3-hour drive and another emotional roller coaster ride just because she snapped her fingers. Let's be real, Gypsy probably thought she still had him wrapped around her finger. That if she cried just right, said the right nostalgic thing, or played the victim well enough, Ryan would jump back into old patterns. Maybe she thought he'd be flattered that she was thinking about him. That he'd be confused, emotional, sentimental enough to show up, like he always used to. But that Ryan? He doesn't exist anymore. He's not here for the drama. He's not interested in being the knight in shining armor to clean up someone else's chaos. He knows what's up. He's been through it. And he's not falling for the same old game dressed up in a new baby blanket. And let's talk about this live stream storyline. You know, Gypsy was probably hoping this interaction would be another chapter for her followers. Maybe a sympathy bump? A little viral TikTok moment? A clip of Ryan walking in with a sad face so she could spin it into a "look who came back" moment? But nope, not this time.
Make me believe that after Ryan wanted nothing to do with her when the baby was born, he did not want to drive 3 hours there to the hospital and 3 hours back to sign a sheet of paper. You cannot make me believe that all of a sudden he's giving ultimatums to Gypsy to meet him, or he's not going to sign paperwork to, make the baby not be an Anderson anymore. You cannot make me believe that. Do I believe that Ken gave Gypsy an ultimatum that if she met up with Ryan and wanted to take Aurora with her and actually took the baby with her, that he would leave and file for custody? I do believe that, because there's absolutely no reason for that child to go to said meeting if there was a meeting. There's also no reason for them to be meeting. She's been trying to meet with this man since before they got divorced. Aren't you supposed to be happy with Ken? You just had a baby with him. Why are you trying to meet with Ryan? Why are you sending photos of the baby to Ryan? Why are you sending photos of yourself to Ryan and continuing to string him along? You cannot have both men. It doesn't work that way. You have to accept whatever choice it is that you made, and you chose to divorce Ryan and be with Ken and have a baby immediately after reconnecting with him. It is not Ryan's responsibility to regulate your emotions. It is also not your child's responsibility to regulate your emotions. It's not Ken's responsibility to regulate your emotions. It's Gypsy's responsibility to regulate Gypsy's own emotions.
Ryan said no without saying no, and that's what made it so powerful. Because now Gypsy has to sit with the fact that she no longer controls the narrative. The guy she used to keep on standby has officially clocked out. No more sidekick. No more cleanup crew. No more easy emotional access. So, the whole Ryan chapter? Officially closed. At least, for him. But for Gypsy? She clearly didn't know how to handle that kind of silence. She reached out to him, not once, not twice, but over and over, sending updates from the hospital, messages about the baby, anything to start a conversation. And what did she get? Crickets. Not even a "okay" or a "thanks." Just a wall of nothing. That kind of cold shoulder? It didn't just sting. It shook her. This was the man she was sure she still had a grip on, emotionally at least. The one she assumed would always have some kind of soft spot for her, whether it was leftover love, guilt, or just confusion. She thought she could pull that emotional lever like she used to and reel him back in. But this time? Nothing. She was tugging on a cord that had already been cut, and when she realized there was no reaction coming, that hit different. Because for the first time, she had to face the truth. She had no power left over Ryan. None. The version of him who used to be at her emotional beck and call. He was gone, and watching him step out of that role? It threw her off completely. For someone who was always used to being the one calling the shots, that kind of power shift was a slap in the face. But baby, that's just the beginning of the drama. Gypsy didn't stop at texts. Oh no. She kept going. She kept pressing. And then, plot twist, she started sending Ryan photos. Not just casual ones, but baby pics.
This is when, in January 2nd, I looked at it, of course I glanced at it and was like, check features and everything, and baby's adorable, but it's so young. I mean, it's only a week old right there. And then, let's see, this was the next picture I got, was her a little older, sprawled out. But, what's funny is she sent me a glamour shot before the picture, which I thought was odd. So before the picture of the baby, she sent me that just to be like, hey, look at me.
How did you feel when you saw the picture?
I mean, she always looks good to me. Like, you know, she's beautiful. I mean, I saw it and I was, oh, damn, she still looks good like she does, you know. But then I saw the baby, she sent me a picture of the baby, and look how it's sprawled out. And it's starting to get more features. And like this picture, I was kind of like, might be, you know, like I thought maybe, you know, like might be mine. Like, I don't know, just I noticed the dimple right here. Then when we were talking, she sent me that picture. That would make
Sweet little images of newborn Aurora wrapped in blankets, maybe with a soft smile or pouty little lips. You could tell she picked them carefully, the ones she thought would hit him right in the heart. Maybe she thought it would melt him. That something inside him would soften. That even though Aurora wasn't his, he'd still feel something. Guilt, responsibility, nostalgia, anything. But Ryan? He was just confused. He even hopped on a live stream and said it plain and simple, why is she sending me baby pictures? What does that have to do with me? And he had a point. She knew that baby wasn't his. She knew he had no obligation, emotionally, legally, or otherwise. So what was she really doing? To anyone watching, it was obvious, it wasn't about introducing him to the baby. It was about control. It was a classic emotional tactic, dressed up in soft lighting and swaddles. Not a sweet update, a quiet manipulation. Look what I have now, and look what you're not a part of, a move. Or worse, it was a test. A game to see if he'd still respond, if she still had him wrapped around her finger. But Ryan didn't flinch. Didn't respond. Didn't compliment the baby or give her the satisfaction of even a reaction. He saw right through it. But girl, it doesn't stop there. Gypsy then made it public on TikTok that baby Aurora no longer had the last name Anderson. She was now officially a Blanchard, and while sure, that was probably the plan all along, the timing felt messy. She made it seem like she was unfazed, like it was no big deal. But the fact that she even posted about it, and named Ryan, felt like a subtle dig. A final jab. Like she was still mad he didn't come through. She got the result she wanted, but the lack of his involvement still bothered her. And then, hold on, the real twist hit. Ryan later revealed that Gypsy didn't just send baby pics. Nope. She also sent selfies. Yup. Full-on, filtered, flirty selfies. Not, new mom, tired and raw, type of pics, we're talking glam shots. The kind you send when you want to remind someone what they're missing. And this wasn't during some deep emotional check-in. This was about her. Not the baby. Not co-parenting. Not closure. Just her, looking cute, camera-ready, and calculated. And get this, just a few weeks after giving birth, she went to a Post Malone concert. Got dressed up. Went out. Lived it up.
I was like, this is so unfair. Like, I told her, I was like, I wish I could lay next to that every morning, you know, because I love Gypsy sleeping like that. She knows that, and the baby's all curled up. I said, I wish I was there nuzzling next to her. And I said, Aurora must be an Anderson because she's doing what I would have done, you know, just joking. And then, of course, she sent me a glamour shot that night for all this stuff. Let's go out. So, but I got others where it's like, nah, you know, I care about you. I get those out of the blue, you know, but I send her stuff out of the blue too. Well, of course. I mean, why wouldn't I be nervous about that? Of course. I mean, maybe, like, and I've thought in my head, like, what if she's just talking to me so I do go through it? You know, of course I've thought about this. Like, I have all those thoughts. I mean, this has been a terrible situation, and I've thought of a lot of things, you know. But it's the card I was dealt. It's the cards I was dealt. So.
And after the show, she sent another selfie to Ryan. Directly to him. Not a public post. Not a story. A personal message. The kind that screams, look at me now. Why? Was she trying to show him she still had it? That she was still that girl? Was it a test to see if he'd bite? A last-ditch attempt to get some sort of reaction or compliment, because whatever it wasn't about being a mother. It wasn't about loneliness or postpartum feelings. It was attention-seeking dressed up as vulnerability. Strategic, not sentimental. And Ryan? He wasn't fooled. He didn't just ignore it, he called it out. Plain and simple. That's when Gypsy, likely sensing the backlash, tried to clean things up. She released a video saying she only messaged Ryan because she was feeling emotionally distant from her husband Ken, trying to paint herself as a hurt woman looking for comfort. Gypsy had always considered Ryan her emotional safety net, the one person she could turn to when everything else fell apart. But this time was different. She didn't just reach out for support, what she really seemed to want was attention. And the most shocking part? She was doing it all while still in a relationship with Ken. She claimed Ken knew everything, but let's be real, everything what? The surface level messages? Or did that include the perfectly filtered selfies she sent late at night? Because those weren't quick check-ins or exhausted new mom updates. They were strategic, carefully posed photos, the kind you send when you're trying to remind someone what they once had. Then Ryan pulled out the receipts, not hints, not vague references, but solid proof. And once that happened, Gypsy's demeanor flipped like a switch. Gone was the calm, "I'm just reaching out" tone. Suddenly she was dragging up Ryan's personal medical history, trying to paint him as unwell and unstable. She even posted a video saying, "If you punch me, I'll punch you 10 times harder," a not-so-subtle threat that hinted she had dirt on him too.
I genuinely think everyone that called Ryan Anderson delusional owes him an apology ASAP. Okay? Thank you. Because what the fuck is going on? Gypsy, girl, you're sending him glamour shots right after you have a child with somebody else? And then also sending him pictures of the baby? I'm sorry, it's just not adding up. Also, in your apology video that you deleted, by the way, you stated that he was your comfort and your love. Ryan, not Ken, Ryan. I just find it all very odd, Gypsy. What's going on, Gyp? Are you okay? And when I say glamour shots, I don't mean just one, I mean like multiple. And Ryan said, yeah, I sent him to her too. So are you just trying to play both sides and having best of both worlds? Like, cause there's categories you can fall in if you do want to play both sides of the world. But I don't think that's what you're wanting. Also, the constant lifestyle changes on your TikTok page. Girl, the internet is forever. Why do you keep deleting videos and uploading different ones and trying to change your niche a million times?
It felt like an intimidation move, one meant to silence him before things got messy. But Ryan didn't respond. He didn't delete his posts or clap back. He didn't even flinch. His refusal to engage was a quiet power move, and it left Gypsy scrambling. With her tactics backfiring, she shifted back into damage control mode. She released another emotional video, claiming loneliness and postpartum emotions were the reason behind her messages. She said Ken was fully in the loop. But once again, no mention of the selfies. No explanation for why, weeks after giving birth, she was sending glam shots directly to her ex. That wasn't about motherhood or vulnerability, it was about control. About testing Ryan. About seeing if he'd still respond to her the way he used to, but he didn't. And that silence exposed everything. Ryan didn't need to argue. He didn't need to post follow-ups or call her out further. The truth was already out there, and Gypsy couldn't spin the narrative this time. The messages, the selfies, the live stream, and the lack of accountability told the whole story. She had been trying to hold on to some form of emotional power over him, and when it didn't work, she panicked. In the end, it wasn't about the baby. It wasn't about closure. It was about staying relevant in his life, making sure she wasn't forgotten. But instead of drawing him back in, she only pushed him further away. Now the question is this finally over? Or is there another twist coming? Because if Ryan decides to speak again, to really unpack it all, things could get even messier. But for now, he's choosing peace, and that silence is louder than any receipts. One thing's clear, Gypsy's grip on the narrative is gone, and the internet's eyes are wide open, but the drama never stops with this one. Let me know in the comments, do you think Gypsy was really looking for comfort, or was it all just a messy power move? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you don't miss the next drop of tea. Until next time, stay shady and stay tuned.